This is YG One-on-One. I'm your host, Paul M. Neuberger, CEO of the Young Guns Movement. Today, we go one-on-one with Dan Meyer, publisher of BizTimes. Let's go. Welcome to YG One-on-One, sponsored by RightNow Media at Work and my friends at FlexScripts. On YG TV, we bring action-oriented entrepreneurs and free thinkers to the stage so we can be inspired, informed, and better understand how we can grow by breaking the rules of business. This show, YG One-on-One, is quite simple, actually. It's a long-form sit-down with a CEO, business leader, or luminary to learn how they got there and what they can teach us. Today, we welcome Dan Meyer, publisher of the BizTimes. We'll sit down with Dan after this quick commercial break.
Welcome to RightNow Media at Work, an on-demand library of video resources used by Christian business leaders to care for employees, inspire leaders, and cultivate a healthy team. Serve your employees with over 20,000 videos on topics like professional development, mental health, and leadership from leaders like Patrick Lencioni, Henry Cloud, and John Maxwell, plus marriage, parenting, and personal finance content. Help your employees become better at home and better at work. Schedule a free demo today to get an in-depth tour of RightNow Media at Work.
Now that we're back from the break, please join me in welcoming Dan to the show. Dan, how are you, sir?
Paul. Great.
Wonderful to have you.
Yeah, great to be here.
Well, why don't you grab a seat there? Got it all nice and cozy for you. Boy, thank you for taking some time out of your busy day for us. Wonderful to have you on the program.
Sure, really glad to be here.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I'm curious about, because obviously you're a successful guy, your organization is well known, especially in southeastern Wisconsin. Of all the things that you could have done, why BizTimes? Can you tell us the story of how BizTimes came to fruition?
Well, we've been around for 25 years, and if you would have asked me 26 years ago, would you be here, I would have said no. I had been in another part of the industry, the publishing industry, and I had left that somewhat unexpectedly, and I said I wasn't quite ready to leave the industry. So I got home from the office that day, and I told my wife, I know what I'm going to do, I'm going to start my own. And that weekend, we went to northern Wisconsin, and I thought about it, and then that Monday, started to put a business plan together. That was probably the end of June, early July, and between July and December, put the business plan together, got financing, and by January 1st, we opened up our office, and by April 1st, we published our first, what was at the time, a monthly magazine. And then somehow survived those first few years. My wife, I couldn't have done it without her, and still can't, but she was, and we had a newborn at the time, but she was holding down the fort financially and otherwise, and I was, working 18-hour days, 7 days in a row for weeks and months on end. And it's been 25 years since then, but there are a lot of marks along the way that got us to different levels. I had a partner at the time that complemented my skills, and that's some insight I'll share with you in a bit, but I eventually bought him out 4 or 5 years in, and then got into online e-newsletters, and then events, and we started a Biz Expo. A lot of new products, a lot of new services over the course of 25 years. It's only one business, but it seems like it's been 5 or 6 businesses throughout the time, and we're just launching a product called BT360. Now it's a storytelling arm of BizTimes, and again, it's another new business within the business. Over the 25 years, we've had to adjust. The publishing industry has certainly changed. There's not a shortage of news. Our editorial department is working seemingly 24/7 with all the news that's out there, but that's kind of the short story of how we got started.
I think it's pretty safe to assume that just about every type of organization has challenges today, struggles that are unique to their organization, roadblocks, impediments to the success that's unique to that industry. I think some of the challenges in the world of media are pretty well known and well documented, but as a publisher of BizTimes, as the top dog for the organization, what would you say are some of the challenges you're finding unique to media, and how are you personally and BizTimes professionally working to deal with those challenges and make sure that you're well positioned for success?
I think every industry, if you look around, is being affected and being disrupted. I think the education industry is being disrupted now. The retail industry, with Amazon. We were disrupted and continue to be disrupted when Google and Facebook and Twitter came about. But the opportunities on the flip side of that is that we've invested in our digital platform. We, back in the day, could never compete with the daily newspaper, other media in town, or even the Wall Street Journal. But if we get a story that ABC Manufacturing Company is merging with another company that's a national company based in Milwaukee, we beat the Wall Street Journal, and we can report that news instantly before they can, or the New York Times, and certainly before other media companies in this market. So the shift to digital, oftentimes people think, oh, everything shifted. Well, no. We transformed what was our newsprint magazine format into a magazine. Can still provide great value to our readers, but provide additional answers and additional options for clients of ours that are looking to lead their prospects through the sales funnel. And that wasn't possible a few years ago, but because of technology and the integration of all things and the way things are today as opposed to where they were, we're able to do that. So you have to be open to those changes, because if not, you're not going to be right.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I kind of want to jump on is what you had said. You just kind of knew this was the direction you want to go into. Now, this might be a really difficult question to answer, but you're on Young Gun One-on-One. I'm supposed to ask difficult questions. How do you know when you know? I talk to entrepreneurs on a regular basis. I think I have an idea. I think I can start a business. I think this would be well received, but I'm not sure. You seemed pretty sure. Obviously, there's always some uncertainty there. How did you know it was time to go in that direction?
When I had been with my previous employer, I had done some research and found out that 97% of all companies were called small business, were categorized as small business by the SBA, the Small Business Administration. And those comprise companies with less than 500 employees. And I noticed that in this market, there wasn't a publication, a media company that focused just on that segment of the market. I was aware of, and I had done some research of some other companies in Cleveland and some other Midwestern states, and they had seemingly been successful. And when I made a change, I knew that, again, I wasn't ready to leave the industry. I saw a big opportunity in focusing in on that owner-managed company. Again, if I knew then what I know now, I probably would have done it, but my eyes would have been open a little bit more than they were at the time.
Sure. One of the things that you had mentioned is you had a business partner for a while, and it sounds like there's a bit of a story there, so I'd certainly love to hear more. So not only maybe can you tell us at least a little bit about this encounter with the business partner, but also generally speaking, if somebody's got an idea, if somebody wants to start a business, do you recommend they do this as a sole proprietor? Does it make more sense to bring in a partner? I'd certainly welcome your feedback on that.
The first thing I would recommend is that they surround themselves with people that have experienced or have some insight on what you should do. Don't think to yourselves like, I should be an LLC, I should have a partner, I should be a 50% partner or a 33% partner with two other. Talk to people, talk to advisors, talk to mentors that have experienced and know the pros and cons of all those things. I did that. There was one, probably multiple people that said, don't be a 50% partner, be a 51% partner. And I said, come on, what's the big deal? I mean, we're friends and with my partner to be, and what could possibly go wrong?
Famous last words.
Famous last words. I had a gut feeling that this wasn't going to work, and probably by the year 3 or 4 is when and we were 50% partners. We were an LLC. It was called a mutual put call option. I exercised that, and we didn't have any other buy sell agreements aside from that. And there's 30 days for your partner to turn around and use those terms to buy you out. I mentioned earlier about the mentors. Throughout time, make sure that you're associated with organizations that have other people that you can share your stories with. We have a great national organization, and there's a friend of mine who is from Los Angeles. I said, I need your help. And he did a red eye, flew in all night, spent the day with me, went through all the financials, had a whole list of things that he would do, took him to the airport, he flew back the same day.
Wow.
It was incredible.
Yeah, and how nice it must be to be able to have somebody that you can talk to, somebody that you can confide in. And I don't know if you want to talk to this at all, but as somebody who owns multiple businesses myself, sometimes it's lonely at the top. You feel like you have to solve all the problems. You feel the weight of the world on your shoulders. And from time to time, to let ourselves be vulnerable, to let ourselves admit and hear ourselves say that we don't have all the answers, that can be somewhat therapeutic. And kudos to you for at least recognizing, hey, I'm stuck. Hey, I have a difficult situation. Can you assist me? Do you think enough people have that mindset, or do you think that's an opportunity for development for several executive leaders today?
I think the number one thing that people need to go into is eyes wide open and have extreme humility in that they don't have all the answers. Because if you think you do, then you're toast. Because things change, markets changed. Just look at what happened recently with this pandemic. If you think people were surprised, and a lot of companies are out of business or greatly struggling. But surrounding yourself with those people that you can trust, those people that you can share your ideas and help them, but those people that are willing to share their expertise and provide you with guidance over time. And it is very lonely at the top, but if you can involve yourself in an association of like-minded people, there's a publisher association that some of my best friends are within this group, and they have been for 25 years. Through this pandemic, we're on a call every Sunday night, as well as every Thursday afternoon with a larger group. And it's not as lonely when you can steal an idea or borrow an idea that somebody else has and share some of your best practices that they can apply to run their business more effectively. But to know that before you even start is critical, because if you don't, you won't be open to those opportunities.
Now let's get real here for a minute. As a busy C-suite executive, there's a lot of important decisions that you have to make. Lives are riding on these. Here's one of the smartest decisions you'll ever make. FlexScripts, the pharmacy benefit plan partner of choice. FlexScripts works with forward-thinking CEOs who are looking to manage their employee benefit costs. They are your strategic partner to help you make better decisions by analyzing millions of claims with cutting-edge techniques. That means aggressive pricing, outstanding plan management, and top-notch employee engagement. Find out what FlexScripts can do for you and your team. I'm sure glad I did. Visit FlexScripts.com. Once again, that's FlexScripts.com. Well, maybe help me out with this. I mean, I've never claimed to be the sharpest tool in the shed, needless to say, but if I'm falling behind, if I'm missing my sales goal, if I'm drowning in debt, if I'm not getting the traction that I otherwise would have wanted, doesn't it make more sense to double down, to work harder, to even go all in more, spend less time with family? Why does it make more sense to maybe say, you know what, I'm drowning in debt, I'm missing my sales goal, I'm not getting the traction that I need to. You know what, I'm going to take 2 days off. You know what, I'm going to go for a run. You know what, I'm going to shut the email down at 8:30 and go to sleep earlier. For the younger generation that might think it's just work more, grind more, put more in, why is that counterintuitive, and why is that causing more harm than good, would you say?
Iron sharpens iron, right? Sharpen the axe. You can't do anybody a favor or a service if you're just taxed out. You have no fuel in the tank. You've got to get recharged. You've got to look at things with a new perspective. And if you're, working however many hours that is for you that day or that week, unless you do take that time, unless you eat healthy, unless you have some mindfulness happening in your life, you're going to continue to run on empty, and you're just going to be chasing your tail. You can do that for a while, and sometimes it's absolutely necessary. I mean, you just got to put in the time for the next several days. You try to work as smart as you can, but but there's no substitute for working smart and putting in the hours, because sometimes there's just a lot of work that needs to be done. But that at some point, that's going to come back and not bring the returns that you would hope. Yeah. And by taking the extra time, even thinking time, going to church, going for a walk, spending more time with the family, just being alone, that allows you to recharge, refuel, so you can continue to go forward.
Yeah, it's kind of like that oxygen mask theory, I suppose, in an airplane. If the cabin pressure goes down and you need to put oxygen, right before you put the oxygen mask on the person next to you, get your own mask.
You're not healthy, right? Body, mind, and soul. I mean, you're not going to be doing anybody any favors.
And I've always thought of that. And there are certainly days where I come home fried, I come home stressed. And in my weaker moments, you take it out on your family. Maybe you're not overly rude to them, but you're not being there for them. And to your point, gosh, if I'm not filling my own tank, if I'm not there for myself, how am I going to be there for others? So I think that's certainly sage advice. I love talking about entrepreneurship and journalism. I love talking with you anyway, but I love talking entrepreneurship and journalism with you because you're so passionate about it. And it's one of those things that I think energy attracts energy. And when I'm around somebody that's passionate, it's hard for me not to get infected by that to some degree. With respect to journalism in particular, where does that passion come from, Dan? I get entrepreneurship, but where does this love of journalism come from? Have you always been that way?
You know, the fact is that I'm not a journalist. If our media company was up to me to do the writing, we would have been out of business 25 years ago. We would not have started. But I'm passionate about covering the kinds of companies that we cover. My background's sales, and in every issue we have multiple stories about innovators and entrepreneurs. You know, how they do what they do, what kinds of decisions do they make to be successful, and oftentimes, you know, they're sharing those ideas because our readers, our event attendees, our online readers are those individuals who are running companies that are newer, or some that are family owned, that have been around for 50 years, but the next generation's taking over. The current generation is, and they're just have an entrepreneurial mindset. And it's exciting to see at an event if we can shed some light on how they're developing their next generation leaders, or how they're innovating to capture more market share. I don't know where it comes from. My father ended up being an entrepreneur. He had a few businesses. As I look, two of my brothers are entrepreneurs. And my father-in-law is an entrepreneur. So I don't know. You know, sometimes it just happens. I don't know if anybody else would have hired me. Certainly not in finance, or law, or economics, but you know, marketing was the area that I studied in school, and that's what I've been doing, you know, for the last 25 years, sales and marketing. So you have to do what you like. I would have never thought, you know, when I got out of school many years ago, well before we started the business, that I'd be doing what I'm doing. But it's so much in alignment with what I studied. Mm-hmm. It's funny how that works.
However you want to take this, whichever direction you want to run, I want to leave this somewhat open-ended. You can take it personally, you can take it professionally, wherever you want to go with it. But obviously a guy like you has accomplished a lot. You're well respected in your field. BizTimes is one of the gold standards with respect to media in southeastern Wisconsin. What would you say, Dan, was one of the more seminal turning points in your life? And how did that help make you who you are today?
I remember in high school I was working for $2 an hour. You know, it was a long time ago, Paul. But, you know, cutting grass, and I mean, that was below minimum wage at the time, and but I did it. You know, it was the only thing I could find at the time, and I did it to the best of my ability. I would carry an Alturvik Caddyshack bag on my shoulder, caddying, you know, on the north side of Milwaukee, and get paid $5 for 18 holes. $5.50 was a good round after 5 hours. I did it, and I think those were areas, building blocks for me for, you know, realizing that, okay, I could put in 18-hour days for months and months on end, to try to get the business to move forward. You know, and then in our business, seminal points were, you know, adding staff that can take on and bring ideas that I have, you know, have any idea on how to do, and to set up processes and manage the various teams that we have. That's helped the business tremendously, but I've always, had a strong work ethic, and I think it came from those areas.
Sure. Yeah, one of the sayings, phrases that gets under my skin is when people say failure is not an option. I get what they mean when they say that. We're if it's sink or swim, we're going to swim, we're not going to sink. We're onward and upward. Not only do I disagree with that, I think if you're going to be successful as an entrepreneur or successful in business, failure must be an option. And I think you only grow by your misses. You only grow from some of your failures. Now, the one thing that I find also is failure is a rather subjective term. Failure means something different for a variety of different people. So my question for you would be, how have you defined failure over the course of your career? And by that definition, what would you say was one of your bigger failures on this entrepreneurial journey of yours?
About 3 years after we started, I started an employment newspaper called Employment Times. And I wish I would have started it a year and a half earlier, and I wish I would have sold it a year and a half earlier. Because that was before Monster.com came about. It was when the daily publication in town, I think 80% of the revenue was through employment ads. It wasn't a complete failure because I was able to sell it and generate a little bit of a sale price from it. But sometimes making a decision quicker. When we first started the business, I was going to be in 3 different markets within 3 years. Is it a failure that we didn't do that? No, it's just the decision at the time that was made, and instead of going to different markets in the state, it was to build up more products within the one office, so you have one rent payment.
And let's talk about that a little bit, because I think that really separates the successful individuals from those that never really seem to gain traction. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be challenges. From time to time, we're going to seem like we're in reverse when we want to go forward. What is your mindset specifically when you deal with a setback? Because I'm amazed at how many different people deal with setbacks differently. Some internalize them, some take it personal, some witness one setback, see, I knew this wasn't going to work. How do you approach setbacks? What mindset do you have when you're dealt with something that maybe isn't going along the path that you had initially wanted it to go?
So as I mentioned, I had a partner that I had bought out, and after that period of time is when the debt that I incurred ballooned like 2.5 times. I mean, it was huge for me at the time. And if I was in that much debt today, it would be huge today. What's the worst possible thing that could happen? I don't know. We go bankrupt. Okay, you're pretty young. You think you could get another job? Yeah. Okay. Could you deal with that? I suppose. Great. You've now dealt with the worst case scenario. You know you can handle the worst case scenario, and what are you going to do from here? You internalize it, you share it with others, then once you kind of have a handle on it, and then you map out a plan.
I think that's one of the marks of a good executive, of a good entrepreneur. Leadership. So not only have you grown this organization, not only have you made a business out of this organization, you have a staff at BizTimes, and from what I can tell, the staff really responds to you. They really respect you. You seem to be a very admired man in your organization. Somebody watching this, they're new to leadership. They're new to a C-suite position. They're new to an executive level type of job. 2 things that they should know as they embark on this, 2 traits that they should probably aspire to possess to make them a good leader. What would you say to that?
Be humble, ask for their opinions, get their buy-in. My style is more of a collaborative rather than a dictatorial, this is how it's going to be done. That's by design because I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, as they say. I really respect what others think and know that I don't have all the answers. In certain situations, will weigh in on it when I feel very strongly for something, but I would suggest going the approach of being collaborative, having voices heard, and then something that I have to work on all the time is communication. Let people know what's going on in your mind. Let people know what's going on in the company, especially during this time when a lot of people are working from home and we don't see each other physically. I think everybody's getting sick of Zoom calls, but one-on-one time and just that open communication, and to let people know, from an accountability standpoint, from are they doing their job, and then creating a culture where there's respect.
Well, we're all unfinished products. At least kudos to you for recognizing that. I can tell you, one of my favorite things about sitting in this chair, outside of the fact that it's insanely comfortable, is I learn a lot from the people that sit in that chair. I was looking forward to this conversation, not only because we're friends and we've got history, but I knew I would learn a lot from you, Dan. You did not disappoint. If I learned a lot, I can only imagine what our viewers today did, and I really do appreciate your insight and expertise. You gave me a lot of good stuff to think about today.
Wasn't he terrific? I always learn a lot when I'm having a conversation with Mr. Meyer. Thanks to Dan for sitting down on YG One-on-One, sponsored by FlexScripts and RightNow Media at Work. We want to feature the CEOs and executives that inspire you, our beloved viewer. Let us know who you'd like to see by connecting with us on our website or social media platforms. And make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page if you haven't already, so you don't miss a single episode of YGTV. I'm your host, Paul M. Neuberger, CEO of the Young Guns Movement. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.